So, you know, and I have always been there, because I've always looked at my job as, and I've produced as well. So I know what it's like as the creator, producer who's trying to keep the big picture in mind. And I actually gave it up, producing, because I found engineering so much easier. Especially since when I was hired to produce, a lot of times they would hire me to produce because they were trying to save one salary. Yeah. They'd be like, well, why get a producer and an engineer and have to pay out all this money when we can get him to do both? Yeah. So after a while, and it's really, producing is a whole different mindset, as many of you probably know. You really got to keep yourself more connected to the song and the big picture and where the song's going, where the performance is going. And as an engineer, you're thinking about, is that the best kick drum sound? And is that snare too bright? Or are the levels not right? So they're really two different parts of your brain. And it gets really difficult when you are trying to get the best guitar sound, and one of the guys in the band asks you if his part is, the keyboard player says, well, is this the right part? Yeah. And you're kind of going, I'm just trying to figure out if I should do the 57, or is it the 414, or is it a combination? What did you ask me? Right. Is the keyboard part right? Later. So it's really difficult to do both jobs. It can be done, but it's draining. It's really draining. So I really do enjoy engineering, especially with someone who is way more musically advantaged than I'm not a player anymore. I once played keyboards, but I don't consider myself a player anymore. And if I work with, you know, a Jim Steinman back in the day, or some of the many amazingly talented producers that are out there these days, I just find that working with them and getting their vision to come to fruition is a great thing. And if I can do it in 10 minutes, that's great. And if I have to do it in 10 hours, then so be it. You know, I think that's the attitude you have to have as an engineer. You have to have a lot of patience and make sure that you don't, when the producer all of a sudden takes you down a certain path, and then 4 or 5 hours later decides to totally go this way now, that you don't go, what are you doing? You took me this way, and now you do. It's like, just go with it. It's like, hey, he didn't know that going this way was the wrong way until you went there. Now 5 hours later, you're at this juncture, and it's like, I better change direction because this is going the wrong way. And you just got to be hanging there with him or her, and make whatever changes need to be made, and just kind of go with it and not get flustered or pissed off or whatever. The top of the line, world-class studios where the sonics are absolutely amazing. Your mic choices, you just go to the mic closet and there's 50 different mics. There's condensers and ribbons and dynamics and just everything that you would ever, you know, is a just amazing choice of stuff. And this record, this record with Pink Houses and Authority Song and Walls Come Tumbling Down, was done in a house, in a very small house, and it was actually done in the living room of a very small house in Seymour, Indiana. We brought a truck from Criteria, which was a studio down in Florida, and we brought it up to Seymour and we emptied it out. We took everything out of it. We took the multi-tracks out of it, we took the console out of it, and rewired everything. And took the living room, which was maybe smaller than the room we're in right now, and we just built a wall where we felt we had enough room. We put the console in. I mean, it was awful looking. There were wires all over the floor, you know. I mean, you had to really be careful. And we just had plexiglass, you know, between us and the band. And because we had to tear down everything that we had put up because this house was mid-construction. It was actually, the story real quick. It was John Mellencamp's sister and her fiance were building their dream house, and in a cornfield in Seymour, Indiana, and halfway through, they ran out of money.
Isn't that great? We'll do a record there.
And so she went to John and asked him if he could help her out, and she said, he said to her, well, if you let me have the house for a month or so, you know, I'll give you the money to finish it. This house probably cost $50,000 all in to make, you know. They probably needed 10. And, you know, he's a millionaire, I mean, but that's John. I won't go there. And so, you know, there was nothing about this scenario that was acoustically right. There was no, walls weren't padded. We didn't bring in a technician to check and make sure the speakers, there was no reflection or this or that. There was probably shitload of reflection everywhere, but we didn't really care. And it was part of the, you know, there's a credit somewhere, I think, inside that record that John gives credit to. The sound of the record is the sound of the room we were in. Because Kenny was in one corner. Kenny Aronoff, the drummer, was in just literally one corner. And Kenny was over here, John was in that corner, and one guitar player was over there, another guitar player was over there. We put the guitars off in like, one was in a closet, another was in like a bathroom or something like that. The bass was the amp was in a bedroom. Everybody was physically together. And John, we got a gobo that had the plexiglass window in it, and we kind of stuck him in the corner and just stuck the gobo to kind of go up against the corners and threw some packing blankets. But when you soloed his vocal, you could hear the drums coming through his vocal, you know. So a lot of times we had to fix vocals. We kept a lot of the vocals that he tracked with, and we would just like you know, punch and fix words and stuff like that. We would mostly go for that whole record is basically go for and the whole song as a whole, so that, you know, yeah, if he blew a line, we'll just fix that line, and if he blew a whole chorus, well, you know, let's just do another take, and we'll cut that better chorus, we'll cut into the take that's the better whole take. There's a lot of that going on. So that taught me that you don't necessarily have to be in the best studios with the best mics. We weren't. And that record, to this day, I hear it come on the radio, and I'm real proud of the way it sounds. It's probably one of the things I'm more proud of. And it was one of the simplest records I've ever done. When we mixed, we had one slap machine and one EMT 140 plate. It's the only effects in the whole record. Other than that, it's whatever, you know, whatever sounds. Like when we do backing vocals and stuff, I would mic from a distance, so I would pick up the sound of the room. You know, everything was done with the sound of the room, because the room kind of became the character of the whole record. Even when we did percussive overdubs, you know, everything was, there was always, the mic would be, you know, 5 feet back or so that I would kind of, you'd hear, not just hear, if you soloed it, you would like, the tambourine would sound like it was in a room. And I had no choices. I had, you know, those are the days of committing. It was 24 track. You didn't put the room on one track and the close mic on another track. We didn't have that luxury. It was just, you know, go out there and run the part down and put the mic where you think it's going to sound best and record it and move on. And that was a record where we really, like, we would go 3, 4, 5 takes, and then it was, okay, that's it. It's somewhere in those 5 takes. You know, let's listen, pick the best take, and then edit between them. And then we would stop and have dinner, and then at night we would go in and do the overdubs, whatever overdubs had to be done on that song. And then that song was done, and we never revisited it. And the next day it was the next song. We never.
To bed,
Yeah,
to bed.
that was it. Yeah, and that whole record was probably 2 weeks.
That's great.
You know.